This is the video for section 3.7 of Math 980, and we are continuing with our topic of lines. Today we're going to learn how to figure out the equation of a line given certain hints or information. So first of all, let's back up. A while ago we talked about some characteristics of the horizontal line versus the vertical line. So the horizontal line is horizontal, which means it's flat, goes from left to right. We call this slope. So the slope, which is m, is 0. The slope is 0. And it has a very specific equation. It's always going to be just y equals a number. What number will it be? The number that it goes through on the y-axis. And that'll become more clear as we start doing the questions. So a vertical line goes straight up and down. The slope is undefined, and its equation is x equals a number. What's the number? Whatever number this line goes through on the x-axis. So what I want to do is look at all the questions on the homework that deal with either a horizontal line or a vertical line. I think if you focus on all these questions first, it will be less confusing in the end, because you get to think of one concept instead of throwing a whole bunch of other concepts in the middle. So question 1, it says identify the appearance of the graph of the equation, and it gives the equation y equals 1/6. Ultimately, you will want to memorize these facts. A horizontal line looks this way, the slope is 0, the equation is y, y equals a number. So I know that this is a horizontal line because it is y equals a number. There's not a y and an x in this equation. It's just a y set equal to a number. So now I want you to jump to question 7, and questions 7 through 11 are all going to be either horizontal lines or vertical lines. And I want you to be able to look at the pattern and recognize why. So on question 7, it gives me 2 points, and the points are 2, 3, and 2, 5. So this is question 7. I'll put it over here. I have 2, 3, and 2, 5. So if I plotted those, let me erase this, then I would be at 2, 3, and 2, 5. Notice that my dots are right one on top of the other. So if I connect those dots, I will have a vertical line. So therefore my equation has to be x equals a number. What number would it be? Well, the vertical line goes through 2 on the x-axis. So it would be x equals 2. Is there a shortcut? Yeah. If you notice that you have 2 numbers that are the same on the 2 points, then ask yourself, which position is it in? Is it the x or the y? In this case, it's the x. So this has to be the equation x equals 2, because all the points are going to have 2 for the x value. Let's look at question number 8. Find an equation of the vertical line. So they tell me it's a vertical line, so I already know it's x equals a number. And then they say it goes through the point -6. So this is question 8. Goes through the point -6, 8. Well, if I know it's vertical, it has to be x equals, what would it be? It would have to be the x value of that point. X equals -6. You could plot the point -6, 8, draw a vertical line, and you'll see that it goes through -6 on the x-axis. Let's look at number 9. Number 9 says, write the equation of the line passing through -3, 6 and 4, 6. Well, both of these are 6's. They're in the y position, so that must be y equals 6. You could certainly plot those 2 points, connect them. You'll see that they are horizontal. horizontal lines are y equals something. What is the equals something? The 6, because they will go through 6 on the y-axis. Okay, let's look at question 10. It says graph the line y equals 9. Well, if they give me the line y equals 9, what do I know about it? I know that it's horizontal. If it's horizontal, that means it's going to go through the y-axis, and it will go through at the number 9. So how do I plot that? Just pick 2 points that happen to be having a y value of 9, and then have it connect the dots. And then the last one that has to do with either horizontal or vertical is number 11, where it says graph the line x equals 5. Well, if it's x equals a number, it's going to be vertical. And where will this go through? It'll go through 5 on the x-axis. How would I plot that? I'd probably put a point there and another point where x is 5, and then have the graph connect the dots. Okay, so I would encourage you to practice questions 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 several times. They're pretty fast and easy, and the quicker that you become at recognizing these characteristics of a horizontal and vertical line, then these will just become second nature to you. And there will be some questions like these on the test. They're wonderful questions because if you've kind of got this concept down, then they're really fast. You can move on to more difficult questions, and they're really not that hard. All right, so now what I want to do is talk about what happens if it's not a vertical or horizontal line. How would I know how to find the equation? So let's start with question number 2. Question number 2, it gives me the slope and the y-intercept. And that's the very easiest kind that they can give you. So what can they give you? They can, situation number 1, they can give you the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the reason that's easy is because we know that y equals mx plus b. So this is the equation of a line. If I only knew the slope and y-intercept, then I would be done. So on question 2, they give me the slope and y-intercept. So all I have to do is replace them in the equation. So my slope is -7. I put the x next to the slope, plus, and the y-intercept is 8. They gave me the y-intercept as an ordered pair, but that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be still here at 0, 8, which means this line goes through that part of the y-axis, and that's why it's called a y-intercept. So if you have a slope and a y-intercept, you just replace the m and the b with them, and you're done. And that is the easiest possibility after the type before where they were just horizontal or vertical. Okay, so question number 3, they give you a picture of a line on a graph. So mine goes through the point 5 and then 8, 1. So here's my line, and it actually highlights these 2 points. So this is just a little more difficult than question 2. What is it that I want? I want a slope and a y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept I can see is 5. So I'm going to write that down. So b is 5, and my slope we learned how to do in a previous homework assignment. From this point, I could just count up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So my slope is 3 over 1, which simplifies to just 3. So if I have the slope and the y-intercept, then my equation is y equals 3. I put the x next to the slope, plus 5, and that's my answer. So those two aren't too bad. The easiest one is number 2, because they just basically give you the slope and y-intercept, and then it gets progressively more difficult because here you had to figure out the slope on your own. Okay, so we're going to get a little more difficult as we go along. So question number 4, so here they give you the slope and the y-intercept. what happens if they give you the slope and just another point, but it's not specifically the y-intercept point? And for this, what you're going to want to do is use the point slope formula, which goes like this: y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. We would substitute the point x and y there for where the sub 1's are, and we would put the slope at the m. So let's look at question number 4. 4 is negative 4 comma 0 is my point, and my slope is negative 5. So I'm going to label this point xy and make it 0.1, because that's the one that gets put into the equation. So I'm going to go y minus 0 equals negative 5 parentheses x minus negative 4. And then what we're going to do is simplify this, and ultimately you want y all by itself on one side of the equal sign, just like this was and this was. So y minus 0 is y, so that's not too bad. Inside here, I can change this to x plus 4, because a minus next to a minus is a positive. And then I can distribute. So negative 5x minus 20, and that's my answer. So that's not horrible, but it's definitely more difficult than questions 2 and 3. So question 5 is the same way. You're going to use your point slope formula. It's a little more difficult because, first of all, the point doesn't have a 0. So let me just set this up. So I have a 4/6, and your slope is a 3/8. So that's going to be a little more challenging because you have a fraction. So I'm going to label this xy 1, 1. So I'm going to go y minus 6 equals 3/8 x minus 4. Okay, so do your distributing first, and you could certainly use your calculator for the fraction part if you need to. 3/8 times negative 4 would become 3/2. Then I would add 6. Now, you have to add 6 to the constant term because it's not a like term with the one with the x. So I get y equals 3/8x. Negative 3/2 plus 6 will give me 9/2. And again, you could put that in to your calculator to figure that out if you're struggling with that part of it. And that's the answer. That's the equation of that line. Okay, so what's the third option? The third option is that they give you 2 points, a point and a point. So question number 6 is that way. They give me the point 0, 5 and 110. So if they give me a point and a point, then the first thing I need to do is figure out the slope. We already know how to do the slope because we practiced that before. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I would label these points xy, xy, call this point 1, this point 2. So my slope would be 10 minus 5 over 1 minus 0. So I get 5 over 1, which is just 5. So now I have a slope. And look, do you recognize that this is a y-intercept? How do I know it's a y-intercept? Because the x is 0. If I were to plot this, this would be on the y-axis. So I now have a slope and a y-intercept. I could go back to questions 2 and 3 and just write my equation, y equals 5x plus 5. Now, had I not recognized that, I could easily have put one of these points with my slope into the point slope formula and done that whole process, and I still would have gotten to the answer that they wanted. Okay, and then, so I think this is probably the hardest question because it starts off with 2 points instead of these other more simple clues. All right, the last thing I want to do is just talk a little bit, give you a couple of hints on those last 3 questions, which all have to do with story problems, everybody's favorite. All right, so I'm going to jump to question 12. And question 12 is very similar to what we did in the last section. So it asks you for the fixed cost, the variable cost, and then to write the cost equation. So if my fixed cost is 1.8, that's my fixed, and my variable is 0.05, I just want to point out the fact that the variable part will be the part in the equation. So if I wanted to write my equation, it'd be 0.05. That's the part I put the x next to because x is a variable. So that 0.05 then turns out is my slope. So that would be my equation. Once you have the equation, then you can answer the last 2 questions. What will it cost to produce a 25-page report? Well, x was the number of pages. You replace x with 25, solve this. Then the last question, if the report costs $4.80, well, that's the cost is the y. I would replace y with 480 and then solve that for x. Okay, question 13, they give you a graph and they want to know how fast the plane is rising. So what you need to do on this is you need to find 2 very clear parts of the picture where you can really determine what the points are and then just find the slope. So when you find the slope, that will be your answer. And then the last question, number 14, I just want to give you a little hint on that one because they give you the graph, but you can't really use the information to plot it the way you're used to. So mine starts at 230 there and it goes up. And the end of my picture is 3,000 and here it's 2,000. So let's see, what do they want here? Oh, they want you to graph it, right? So they give you information. Mine says an appraiser charges a flat rate of $150, so that's the fixed rate, to appraise a house plus 0.04 cent or 4 cents per square foot. So I'm going to go 0.04x plus 150. So that's my equation. What I would recommend is put 2,000 in for x, figure out the answer. So my answer was 230, so I was able to plot that point, and then put 3,000 in for x, and my answer ended up being 270, so I was able to plot that point. So just plug the 2,000 in, then plug the 3,000 in. Each of your 2 answers then gives you the points, and then graph the line. And that's it for this section. I'll see you next time.